Good morning, everybody. My name is Phil Valentine. I just completed my first year of retirement, just turned all the way up to age 66. I was talking with Sandy the other day and feel like she said, well, you've acted like a 14-year-old most of your life. Maybe you're like, you might be in your early 20s now. So I feel like I still have a young mind and attitude. But my physical body is telling me it's a lot older than when I was 20. That's for dang sure. But all's good. I was telling these guys, when you get my age, I look forward. I got some dentures because of all the teeth I lost because of chemo. And I tried those on yesterday. I don't have them in today. I don't like them, but we'll see what happens. I'll give it a go. 1 year retirement. Uh, December will be 38 years of recovery, 25-year career at the Connecticut Community for Addiction Recovery, and I've done a lot with recovery coaching. Currently, I am sitting on the dark side of I am sitting in Warwick, Rhode Island. Um, um, and after this, I'm going to pack up the car and I'm going to take 2 days and go see my boys. My two sons are one's driving from Chicago, and we're all going to meet at my other son's house in Lexington, play a couple rounds of golf, and drive back. And then next week, from 10 to 2, I will be online with CCAR again doing the Recovery Coach Academy, which is kind of fun. I haven't done that for a little while, and I thoroughly enjoy that. So here we're doing coaching for coaches. We have a lot of the regulars here, which is really good. This is being recorded. It ends up on the CCAR website. I've heard from several people that they actually go and listen to these things and seem to get a lot out of them. So I'm appreciative of that. So tell me a little bit about, let's introduce some of you. Please say hi, your name, where you are sitting, and I want you to think about progress. That's the title of this. What does progress mean to you? And I'll keep it as broad as that. What does progress mean to you? And who would like to go first? And this is like, since there's not a ton of you, I would appreciate active participation. Thanks, Priscilla. Always good to see you.
I figured I'd volunteer and just roll with it because it's going to be within right now or within the next 8 minutes. So anyway, so my name is Priscilla Schaefer. Currently, I am sitting in Spring Lake, Michigan. So Michigan, we use the map, and I am way over here by Lake Michigan, and thinking about progress, life changes. So not I left full-time employment 2 years ago, and for the I said I had a full-time job, and I always moonlighted or have moonlighted for whatever at least 12 years doing C-card trainings and Michigan state trainings. But 2 years ago, I left the full-time employment. So progress for me today is soul searching. And what does that look like? Where I live in Michigan, snow is not my friend. So realistically, I said now in person stuff, I can schedule things that I want to do, which is C-card trainings. I can schedule them from March till October 30th and maybe go fishing. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
those are the things. So progress for me is taking care of myself and always tune up now and then. And then the progress I heard Phil talk about December for me, my progress, my anniversary of my, I call it stability and staying in recovery is in December as well. So my actual sobriety date is winter solstice day. So I say the darkest day of the year is the brightest day for me in the world of recovery. So that's me. And like I said, the progress is just doing what I want to do, what I need to do, and not what others tell me I have to do when it doesn't fit in my uh,
Hmm.
healthiness in life. I suppose that's a nice way to say it.
It
Thank
is.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, Ed.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm Ed Havlovic, coming to you live from my apartment, all the way from Weehawken, New Jersey. It's
Mhm.
always a pleasure to join on these sessions. Uh, Phil, I do want to say happy retirement.
Oh, thank
Uh,
you.
38 years and 25 years with CCAR is amazing. Uh, the
I know
first,
how that happened.
okay, I'm gonna toot your horn a little bit. The first time I heard of your name was when I was in my first CCAR uh, RCA training, and someone
Hmm.
was referring to you there at CCAR, and I began to understand what CCAR was and the work that you have been doing those years. So I just want to say thank you for that. I
Mm.
too celebrated my birthday this month. This last weekend was my birthday. Um, I hate to admit this, but I am older than you, Phil. I celebrated my 73rd birthday.
Well,
I
what day? What day?
October 12th,
All
Columbus
right.
Indigenous Day,
Yeah,
but I refer it simply to Ed's Day.
yeah, there you go.
So thank you. And regards to your question on progress, uh, honestly, any day that I can open my eyes is progress. And any day that I can do something or find something that I can do to improve and make my day better than yesterday, whether it can help improve my life or the life of another, I will take as progress.
Okay, I like that. Amber.
Hello, I'm here. So my name is Amber. I am in Appleton, Wisconsin, and progress to me is it's being able to celebrate progress at any stage and any level because it looks different for everybody. So I feel like if there's any sort of progress being made, you're moving forward. If there's none, then you're stuck. So I think that everyone's at different spots. And like for me personally, I had my video off because I've been procrastinating and it's cold here in Wisconsin now. And I had this AC unit sticking out my window. And I'm like, well, I can't turn my heat on until I get this AC unit out of my window. So I have like taken the time now to start making little steps to preparing my apartment for winter. So that is progress to me. And like I said, it looks different for everybody. So.
All right. Thank you. Shireen.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shireen. I work for CCAR. I am now in the office of New Haven Center, and the progress for me is staying in the boat. And what I mean by that is I stay in the boat so the sharks don't get me. And with the sharks is my addiction. So I stay close. I stay with a safe net. I stay away from people, places, and things. That is my process to keep moving forward and avoid all that that is not good for me. So yes, I stay in the boat.
Why don't you want to swim with the sharks?
Because they beat me up before and gave me TWA. Thorough whoop, you
They
know what.
do. Oh, really? Okay. I've seen lots of people swim with the sharks, but not Shireen. She's staying in the boat. Michael?
My name is Michael Serrano, person in long-term recovery. I'm in Hartford, Connecticut, and progress. The first thing I thought of was when I got diagnosed with diabetes in 2019,
Hmm.
and the doctor told me that my A1C, the first time I ever really understood what A1C meant or whatever, right? And they told me it was 18, and I was like, "Whoa, that's high." And I just went to the doctors 2 weeks ago, and they told me that it's 6.8 right now. So progress.
Mm-hmm. Taking care of yourself. Good
Oh
man.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else want to talk about, introduce yourself, name where you're sitting, and how you think of progress? Hi, Paul.
Um, Hello, my name is Paul, and um, I'm sitting in New York, the Bronx, in my office here at Odyssey House. And
Hmm.
funny, Michael said that story because I wasn't even thinking about that. But several years ago, I was also diagnosed with diabetes, and all of the medications make me sick. So I haven't really been taking them. But
Hmm.
I started juicing and like taking sea moss. Anyway, so a couple of weeks ago myself, I had went back to the doctor. They told me my A1C and my A1C was 15 and my sugar was 500. And a couple of weeks ago they said my A1C is 6.9 and my sugar was like 117. So that's progress. I've been
Wow.
I, I initially I was gonna say it's just progress for me being on this call because I've been attempting to become a RCPF for about a year now. Finally made it, so that's
Did you?
progress. Yeah, finally made it. So that's progress. And
Congratulations.
thank you very much, and
When
thank
are
you
you
for
doing your
letting.
first training?
So here in New York, we have to get approval by another board. So I'm working on the approval for that board, and then once I complete that, I'm going to set up a trainer.
Nice. Well done.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Stefan, I didn't know if you want to jump in or you're just going to hang out in the back there for a while. Do you want to say hi?
Yeah, sure. Hi, good morning. I'm driving. I just had to drop my brother off at work.
All
But
right.
anyway, uh, yeah. So I'm here visiting my family in Syracuse, New York. Whereas I normally in Buffalo, which is where I live.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so I was just thinking about progress, and probably because I'm in the car, as forward motion. I was just thinking about progress as just very generally forward motion. Um, so yeah, so that's how I would right now define progress.
Thank you. Um, Let me ask you a question. Do you consider progress positive or negative and why? And this is where one of you like says,
I
Michael.
I'll jump in on that really quick,
Yeah.
because you made reference to AI and excuse me, probably many people on the call, I've been thoroughly fascinated with AI, the perils and the progress that it offers to us as humans, right? So when I think about AI, I think about, what are some of the concerns that come up, like people worried about, being cloned, being facetious, but worried about the automation of jobs, what that's going to mean for labor, what it means, for people going to school and schoolwork, and how they're using AI to an advantage. So I look at that as progress, but yet there's peril. There's potential peril in that. Um, so I would say, it can be, and really, like I said, forward motion, and AI specifically, and progress, I reflect upon as a forward motion, but that doesn't it mean it doesn't come without potential harms.
Gotcha. Ed.
Uh, that's a good question, and I wasn't thinking about it. And then it just, Stefan got me thinking about this forward movement. But let's say that I'm climbing a mountain and I'm on these different cliffs and I'm reaching, and all of a sudden I reach that point where there is no place to reach to go up any further or forward. The only option I have is to go down and find another ledge or another rock to find another way to go and continue my journey up, right? So would it not make sense that sometimes a setback is not necessarily a bad thing for progress, but it's the only opportunity that we can find or discover to move ourselves in a different way forward? For
Mhm.
example, and I don't want to be disrespectful to Michael or Paul, but if I didn't know I had diabetes and I'm not feeling well, and then suddenly I go to a doctor and he says, "Oh, sorry, you have diabetes," and all of a sudden it's like, "What?" But in the long run, doesn't that not allow me now a new way to take care of myself so that I can become even bigger and better and stronger? I
Mhm.
don't know. Just some thoughts.
I know. So overall, you're saying that progress is a positive.
Progress can be a positive, but a negative experience is not necessarily a bad thing. It can contribute and improve the progress.
Okay. So progress is
Could
in
be
your
bad in
is
that moment,
no,
but
I
in
got
the
you, but your progress in your mind is a direction that's headed to a positive outcome with
yes, thank you,
setbacks.
Phil.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you. You bet.
Priscilla.
Hmm. Well, I was thinking different things along the way that how initially when we went to the virtual world, and it's been 5 years now. So originally, the health stuff is all the negative things, right? And then the feedback from doing things on Zoom, it's not the same, that you're not in person, so, to each his own, I say, to what those things are. Now, the positive things for Priscilla is I wouldn't be here if there wasn't the virtual world. I wouldn't get to hang out with you. I got to hang out with Phil briefly for a week in I don't know what year it was,
Mhm.
2012 or something, in it's for the recovery coach training, but not this. So whatever works for somebody, and even like my personal private life and recovery meetings and stuff. Like, here I am in Michigan, and we're going to get hot snow here in a minute. If I want to go to any kind of meeting in the world, I don't have to worry about driving in the dark in the winter and the snow. So whatever works for somebody is,
Mhm.
I just know what works for me. And of course, the when I do facilitate the C card trainings, I share with all these things that people can do. They don't have to just come take a training from me in person. They can go on the virtual world and see all these webinars. And if they want the credits, there's uh, the fee for the year, which is like totally, you can go to watch a webinar every day for the whole year and collect 300 something CEs if you wanted credentials. But anyway, it's a learning experience. So the positive outweigh the negative. Now, the other thought that I had, I wouldn't even call it selfishly, it's called life. So the negative thing for me is all of a sudden I'm older, and is this being recorded?
Yes.
Ooh, what do I want to share? let's just say, let's just say I got older, and the decisions with this new age, my new age healthcare. But that's a conversation I'd not like to have recorded. So it's a negative thing, which is financial, and the positive thing is I got to take care of me. So
Mhm.
yeah, so if you're at that age of enlightenment or whatever you want to call it, it's a negative thing in my mind, and I'm working on it. So
Ah,
that's,
gotcha.
if you know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know.
Interesting. So is progress positive or negative, and why? Anybody else care to respond to this? Come on. Yeah, Ed.
Can I change my answer?
You can. We're just getting people to think. That's what we do, right?
I think it's movement and it can be positive or negative.
Okay. All right. Michael, is progress positive or negative?
I think it depends on the way you look at things all the time, right? Because there's
Mhm.
there's there's people that have this they're pessimistic, right? So they're always thinking, oh, progress is a bad thing and bad things are gonna occur, whatever. But if you're always in a positive mindset, right? And my mother always went, I always think of my mom's on this, right? Of she used to say, I think she goes, bad things are gonna happen for good things to occur, right?
Mhm.
So the in the mix of it, there's always a progress of things, even if you're thinking negative, right? Even if you're in a negative thought, there is progress, right? And I don't know how you look at it. If you look at it, if you think of it that way, if you look at it in a negative way, it depending on who's thinking about it, right?
Hmm.
You got me, Phil. That's a great question because it's like I don't know. I don't know if progress is good or if it's bad, right? Because it depends on what you're talking about, right?
Hmm.
What is it that we're talking about when we talk about progress? Me, for instance, my A1C was high, now it's low. That's progress, so it's going in a good way. But then I could just turn around and be like, you know what? I'm just gonna eat mad rice and just eat mad cake and just forget about it, right? And then just lose the progress that I established that I felt, right? But then maybe feel good in the moment, right? Because I'm eating all these sweets and stuff, and like, dang, it feels so good to eat all this stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's a great question because I really never thought about looking at it. Is progress negative or positive? It's like, I don't know, Phil.
Okay, that's a good answer. I like I don't knows. That works for me. Amber, positive or negative progress?
Um, I also have mixed feelings about this. I feel like, on a personal level, I have a teenager, right? So, uh, she's going through a lot, and it's just so different compared to what it was when I was a teenager. Just all the social media and all of the access that they have to see things that, we weren't able to see growing up, right? And not that it wasn't happening or going on, but at the same time, like they're just, I mean, they're learning a lot more and it's not always positive, and that reflects on her behavior. I'm kind of keeping track of like testing and stuff like that, and like honestly, like the social media is taking away from the learning aspect, and also the attention span, right? Because it's like nobody can stay and keep attention for longer than a few minutes on TikTok or whatever it is. And like, I feel like that is where I see it as negative. But then if I think it in a positive, like, no matter what, the world's going to keep changing, right? So if I don't adapt and learn to go with it, like that to me is negative because I can't live that way and I can't always think in a negative mind. So I feel like I'm the same as Michael. I'm like, it's a toss up right now for me.
Okay, fair enough. Um, Paul, what do you think about progress? Are you thinking it's positive or negative? I was asking, yeah.
Yeah, I'm, yeah, I just think it's, for me, I'm gonna say progress is positive. I'm gonna say it's positive, but I'm also gonna say, well, I'm just gonna go with, I don't know, I feel like I'm just copying off this guy today. I don't know.
Okay, that's cool.
I, at
Well,
the
we'll
end of
talk.
the,
Yeah,
go
we'll
ahead.
talk more about it. Well, definitely. Shireen.
Positive for me is growth. It's the way I receive things, climbing up, getting better, doing better. And then if I hit a brick wall and it doesn't work out, the negative is how would I receive it? Would I receive that negative to turn it into a positive? Or would I use that negative to have an attitude like whatever?
Hmm.
So I could use the negative and I could use the positive. But when it's positive and it goes sour, I still try to turn that negative to positive because it keeps my energy flowing.
Okay. Um, in general terms, what are we progressing to? They say our society is progressing or the individual. What are we progressing to?
So I think,
Hmm.
excuse me, I'm sorry. I think,
Oh, yeah, go ahead,
well,
Steph. You're good.
yeah, so I'll talk from a personal perspective. So when I think about on a personal level, when I think about progress for me, right, I think about and as I've defined it before as a forward motion. So I think about that as, taking my life to a different level, experiencing better circumstances, enhancing aspects of who I am and generally my life. So I tend to think of it that way, right? And recognizing that, like as people have said, that it doesn't come without bumps and bruises and peaks and valleys. and that and this is in my mind from yesterday's conference, but I still have resilience because my desired outcome is to move forward. So that's how I tend to think about it on a personal level. On a broader level, I think it's the same. Like I was just now thinking about the railroads, right? When the Industrial Revolution happened, and there were all these Asian Chinese workers on the railroad who experienced, like, you know, who experienced all kinds of difficulties, like discrimination, bias, right? And yet, the overarching goal of building a railroad elevated our country and society to a different place, right? So there were not so good things that happened, and the overarching goal was the expansion and the betterment for our society. So I that's how I kind of tend to think about it. Like it doesn't come without bumps and bruises and bumps in the road.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question, Stefan.
Sure.
You talked about you used the word that you were moving forward. So what does forward mean?
So for me, forward means, not to get all esoteric or anything.
Oh,
I mean,
please. No, please do.
uh, an evolution,
Oh.
right? An evolution, and I think about my recovery, right? So recently, I'm 24 years in recovery, and recently I've just felt like I'm at a plateau, right? And I still desire to evolve, to maintain my sobriety, my recovery, right, and not go back, right. And yet I just been in this place where, I mean, it's allowed me to be more introspective and do some self searching and self awareness, but it's also felt like a plateau, right. And yet I'm in a way different place from 2001 when I
Oh,
started on this journey.
okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
Yep.
Shireen, what are we progressing to?
I'm always progressing to be a better coach.
Okay.
Why I say that? Because their lives matter to me, like if it's really my life, because I want better for somebody. So I try to pour everything into me, and where I get my medicine is from these webinars right here, from Michael, from you, from Ed.
Mhm.
It's good to see you, Ed. This is where I get my strength from, listening to y'all. Forgive
Mhm.
me what I say, but y'all are my dinosaurs.
Okay.
So that's why I'm progressing, because the better I am, the better they're going to be. Because what you give me, I'm giving them.
Okay. Anybody other thoughts? What are we? Progress means movement, I think, right? Progress means movement in one way or another. What are we progressing to? No other thoughts about that. Ed, you're pondering, so I knew you're about
I'll,
to.
you come up with these amazing questions always that my mind just goes off in 20
Right.
directions. I, Look, I think life is just a series of growth or movement. Our lives just move forward. And I moved from year 1 to year 73. And it was just all this movement, movement, movement. I'm like part of this whole solar system that is in constant motion. Where are we going? It's just a passage of time. And the Latin word movement comes to push back from. And it's just this continually moving, and we're pushing back. We either progress, meaning move forward, or we regress, move back. I think when we do not move, or we stay mobile or without movement, I actually think we start to die.
Okay.
So I keep moving. I don't know where I'm going, but more shall be revealed.
Okay. There are four quadrants of healing as posed by White Bison. Um, in their medicine wheel. And the four quadrants are physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, PMES, right? Physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. When you think of, and let's start with you, and we'll bring this into coaching and the recovery in a while. When you think of progress for yourself, what quadrant comes to mind immediately and why? Go ahead, Shireen. You don't have to like mute when you say that. Come on, talk to me.
For me, it is definitely spiritual.
Spiritual progress. What does that look like?
For me, it definitely teaches me to not do the things I used to do, like being worldly. I try to practice good behaviors now. In other
Okay.
words, I got a new walk, I got a new talk. These are things that progress me to be better and not set fast me where they would call it in my world a Jezebel or whatever else. But
Hmm.
I would say physical, spiritual, because it connected me to my higher power to know that I was worthy, that I
Yeah.
was worthy when my addiction told me I wasn't. My higher power was telling me you were. Keep going, and I have your back. Those footprints in the sand are not yours, they're mine. In other words, my higher power let me know that he carried me and pursued me. That's why I'm sitting in the seat today, because I was pursued. He set my life up to me to come through C-Car. I didn't know none of that. But look where I'm at now, and I'm still constantly growing. So you know what? I'm gonna stick with the spiritual and the higher power because he didn't leave me wrong yet.
All right. Welcome, James. Welcome, Victor. Good to see you guys. Shireen, don't mute yourself yet. I got another question for you.
Okay.
Um, how about how would you, since the topic is progress, right? How will you know if you've made progress spiritually, or how do you know?
Can feel it, and he
Uh,
shows me vivid things sometimes. Like sometimes it's kind of scary. Spirituality can be kind of scary, but he shows me visions of things just to show me where it's at and where I'm going and what he could do. You know, one time, I wasn't a believer of it, and boy, he scared the skin off of me. And then I said, okay, I acknowledge, you know, and I accept, and it was, and he just, I can feel it. I can feel the calm. I can feel it within
Okay.
my spirit and my soul, what's going on.
So the way you talked about that, I hear that when you connected with a higher power, that your spirituality progressed, and then the way you thought about the world progressed, and then even you were talking about even emotionally. So I think one of the ways that I hear you saying is that almost your faith has deepens the more you progress. You consider the deepening of your faith a form of progress. Okay, cool. So we're talking about the four quadrants: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. When you think about your own progress, which one seems to take the forefront and why? Like I think Michael and Paul shared a little bit about physical progress in a sense, right? What else? Anybody else think about it that way? Which quadrant and your own progress? It can't be that deep a question. Stefan.
Well, yeah, actually, this one, yeah, for me, right? So this one is getting me thinking, reflecting a little more broadly. Excuse me.
Mhm.
So, I've recently been very, very attuned to my spirituality, who I am. Actually, I'm working on a training around that, soon to come. But anyway, um, so I've really been really kind of zeroing in, if you will, on what does it mean to be a spiritual person? Who am I in the realm of this great existence, and how do I show up, right? And in every way, how do I show up, right? In trainings, in my interactions with my family and loved one, in the community, And so those things really have me deeply reflecting on what it means to be a spiritual person in its broadest sense. And I would add, right, as I think about these other quadrants, because one of the things I talk often about with trainees and attendees is wellness. What does your wellness look like?
Right.
Right. So if you're working on your spirituality, right? How and this so this is my own internal thought, but I also encourage people to explore this. How does that connect to your physical well-being? How does that connect to your emotional well-being? What about your mental well-being, right? So if I'm just this spiritual person, and and I'll just use this as an example really quick. So if I'm this enlightened spiritual being, right, and I'm all interconnected with that, but I don't take care of my physical health, I don't take care of my emotional health, right? Like, where am I going? Right? Where am I going? So, am I going to nirvana and I'm just like a mess in other areas of my life? Right. So for me, right, I tend to think about the interconnection of each of those elements, or each of those aspects of dimensions of who we are, and how do I make progress in those areas.
Okay.
Right.
Anybody else? Progress in the quadrants. Anything come to mind initially? Michael? Oh, Victor, were you going to say something?
Yeah, Victor.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Victor.
yeah. So for me, the physical is where I set my, I guess, intention earlier in this year, and that's been really important for me in terms of just, I guess, part of it is linked to being a parent and saying, I want to see my son graduate high school, and it's like, well, damn, that's a short-sighted goal. Why don't you want to be there when he's 25 or 30 or beyond just graduating high school? Um, and so long story short, you try to do a lot of things on your own, even in our recovery. But at some point, you need to see a professional, right? And so I went to professional. I went to my doctor and talked about, what do I need to do to work on my weight loss? And he helped me with some medication. I was already like halfway there. And then the medication was like another 25%. And so progress, I've lost like 40 pounds in the last 4 months. But the medication isn't the tool, just like it's not in recovery, right?
Mm,
A lot of work. You have to have diet. You have to be dedicated. You need good sleep. You need good water. You need actually a routine. It's not just going to be this magic pill that solves everything.
correct.
Um, and so that's the progress. But also, I supervise a large team of recovery coaches. And so I talk about this in supervision and I bring up my vulnerability to them to allow them to talk about, well, I see a therapist. Do you see a therapist? I'm working on my recovery. I go to the dentist. I go to the doctor. Do you go to the doctor? And the people I supervise are like, oh, yeah, I'm getting a hernia surgery. I'm getting hearing aids. I'm getting all these things. And I'm just saying that because in my addiction, let me tell you, I was rough on my body, right?
Mhm.
Methamphetamine did a number on me for 7 years straight. And I
Mhm.
have a lot of physical things that I needed to work on. And so I just think that's true for, you know, just the physical recovery of what we've done in our addiction takes years to sort of overcome that. And sometimes that's overlooked because we're worried about the financial, worried about all these other things. And sometimes the physical part can be like the last thing we're worried about.
I agree. Well said. Thank you, Victor. Quadrants. Anybody else? What are you thinking about? When I think about the quadrants, oh, go ahead, Ed.
I I think they're all important. If I was to stack them up on each other, I would always make sure personally that the spiritual quadrant is on the bottom because I feel that the spiritual quadrant supports everything else.
It's the foundation. Gotcha.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
I'm in a person in long-term recovery, and I once heard, and it just astounded me when I heard her describe her. We're talking about higher power. She said her higher power was the sun.
Mhm.
And the reason she was describing her higher power as the sun is because she says we as other planets revolving around it, the sun guarantees that we don't fly off into space. There is that energy, there is that source that creates order and serenity for everything moving in the world. And she said, personally, her higher power allows her to have that sense of serenity and willingness to cooperate in this congested, complicated world and creates that sense of order. And she says, and with that serenity and that sense of who I am allows her to better take care of herself physically, emotionally, and also mentally. So I just always love that sense of orderliness and a higher power that allows us all to exist and collide, keep us from colliding with each other because there is so much movement in this world and there's something that has to keep this sense of orderliness. And maybe it's a higher power. Maybe it's the spiritual aspect. After all, is it spiritual or is it spatial? I don't know.
I don't know either. Uh, I think for me that many, many years ago, I came to the realization that we're all progressing to death, that we are all going to die physically, right? And so, what do I want to do with that? So I've talked a lot about what do I do with the time I have left. So, progress is to keep my body fit and strong so I can stave off the physical death for a while and still enjoy life, right? So I got to take care of my body to stave off death for as long as possible. If I don't take care of my body, I'm going to die pretty quickly. So that's that. Mentally, I think I'm always progressing to more knowledge. I just want to seek and find knowledge. And this is kind of helping me kind of put things in together in my head. I hadn't really thought too much about it until I started asking you guys the question and asking myself the same questions. You know how that works. And then I thought about emotionally, I've always been progressing to more awareness of what's going on inside of me. What the hell is that? Why am I getting angry at that? Or do I like that? And what was that about? And all of that. And spiritually, I I think it was, improve our conscious contact. I was taught with that early on in the 12 steps, improve our conscious contact with a God as we understand him, right? Or her. And I think in 37 years, I've always been a seeker. My sponsor has taught me to seek. And I just find that in different ways and different things and exploring. So progress for me is it's really comes down to almost daily increments. Am I a little bit better, how I define better, than I was yesterday? And I think that's all we can ever do as a person is, am I a little bit better today? Am I trying to improve myself a little bit, however I define that, than I was yesterday? And to me, that's progress. Anybody have any thoughts on what I just shared or anything they connected with?
So I do. I wanted to just share because when you said uh, realizing that you are progressing toward the physical death, right? The physical demise, right? Because we all know nobody's going to escape that.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me think of when I first when I first came into recovery and started attending 12-step meetings. There was this guy in the meeting, and he used to say, and he just said it sort of matter of factly. He said, we are born to die. And the first time I heard him say that, it was like, yeah, I think we all know that. And right, like, why does there need to be a public announcement of that? In in the years since, right, I think I've really come to more of an understanding like you just described for us,
Mm-hmm.
right? Realizing Like ultimately, the physical body is going, my physical body is going to leave here, right? And and people talk about the dash, right? So what does my dash look like in between
Hmm.
1961 when I came to this place
Hmm.
and whenever the creator calls me home, right?
Right.
So it just made me think about that because I thought it was profound when he used to say that, but then over years I've come to recognize, oh, he's speaking the truth,
Right.
right? An eternal truth, that's held for time and eternity.
Hmm.
So yeah, so that was what I wanted to share.
Yeah, thanks. And I also think that I don't think we die spiritually. That's my personal belief. I think we just carry on in a different dimension, whatever that might look like. So I'm kind of preparing myself for all of that. That's kind of what's that going to be about. But anyway, Shireen.
When you said that, it took me to where I was chemo, radiation.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I learned to appreciate life more when I got sick. Like the little things that we take for granted, just raising your arm like that. When
Yeah.
there's some people that can't even raise their arm like that,
Yeah.
and I know I don't have long. I don't know when my time is, but I'm learning how to accept it and make a mark before I leave here, a good mark, so they can say, she did X, Y, and Z, like good things, and not, oh, she was known for robbing people and robbing their pocketbooks. I'm trying to set a stage for even for me and for my kids that it can be done. That was me. That's not me now. Going forward, I want to be a positive example. So by me getting sick, help me even deepen and want this even more before it's too late. Thank you, Phil, for that because sometimes it's hard to get it out, but it's good for me to talk about it because it's where I was and not where I'm now, even with my sickness. I
Yeah.
feel great. And I wear wigs because I choose to, not because I bought my head like I used to. So
Yeah.
things are changing.
When I retired, I stopped wearing the wigs. Priscilla, you had your hand up. You think you were going to get away?
No, but I am not ready for prime time. So I heard what she said, talking about Cherie said she wears a wig. Well, I color my hair still because I'm not ready for prime time. So
Hmm.
when I was thinking about listening to you guys share, and I was multitasking because my car's in the shop. Um, but I just told them keep it another day and do what you got to do, and I got to roll with it. But what I was thinking about was my life isn't linear, and the progress for me is being able to revisit things that um, when I thought things, sometimes you go along the way, or I go along the way, and I think things are just the way they should be, and things are stable, and life happens. So for me, I know that it is not linear. Everything isn't just straight. It's perfect. We move on. So life has to happen, and how I deal with it for me is progress. Is
Hmm.
that when I get frustrated, I call it I need to express myself in a nice way because, like I said, I had a little issue with the car, and then they give you this list, and you're like, whatever. So, my progress is you fix the car, I'm gonna roll with it on a need to priority basis. But the progress for me has always been this part is that what I really like about my car, there's no payment. It needs a tune up once in a while, just like me. So this is why I came here, and I actually shared this with Michael the other day. I said, "Yeah, I'll see you this week." I said, "If you're there," because I said I appreciate the conversations you bring to the table, Phil, and hearing from all the attendees, all the participants. So I learn from you guys. Appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Thank you. Me too. Well, that's always learning. Um, I think recently well, several years ago, I read a book by Margaret Wheatley, Who Do We Choose to Be? And she is a progress skeptic. And she goes back and reviews 13 civilizations that all had amazing progress and it ended up in destruction. And so she gave characteristics of societies that are about to self-destruct. And one of the common ones is like worship of celebrities and athletes. And you tell me if we're in that form here in the United States or whatever. But there's a lot of them. And then I started to dive into deeper podcasts and looking at old ancient ruins and what they could mean. And cities buried under the jungles, and I'm just getting into all this crazy stuff. And there's more and more evidence, and I'm not sure what to believe with it, but that man has been on this planet for, they would say, hundreds of thousands of years, and there's been many generations or reiterations of humans, right? That sometimes we self-destruct ourselves or get destructed, and a few of us survive and we start all over again, you know? And I just kind of wonder about this, all of that. Um, and I've become more of a progress for the sake of progress is not necessarily good. It might even be a real negative to uh, civilization in the long term. But I don't know the answer to that. It's just one of those things I'm considering. So I try to keep that in a frame of mind of what affects me today, what affects me in the moment. I think it might have been Amber was talking about social media. So I stopped social media a few weeks ago, and my life has gotten so much better. I am not nearly as riled up about who's in office or who's not in office or who's doing what there and who's not doing what and where the fun. I don't. If I'm going to be on the beach fishing, it doesn't really matter to me. I mean, it just doesn't. And I think that goes a lot for like coaching or whatever. Does it really affect how you're going to coach or what you're going to see in a coach? So the time we have left, which is considerable, this is a deep question though, because and this is why I wanted to bring it up, because a lot of coaching and the way we train coaches is to talk about progress, right? Progress in their recovery. We often talk about there's a progression in the addiction, right? That the more you use, the more you use, leads to jails, institution, or death, or recovery, right? Those are basically your four options. So the question is, how have you or how do you measure progress in a recovery? And is it important? And that's a big question. And I know Victor works with a lot of coaches, so we could just say instead of measuring progress in a recovery, how do you measure progress in the people you supervise, the recovery coaches? Because a lot of that is coaching as well too, if you're in that role. Shireen.
It's funny you said that. Having recovery when he came in, very to himself, very close, wouldn't even hardly look at you. And the more being persistent, just pouring into him, letting him know that you're safe, it's about you and all that. As time goes by, he's starting to do things. He's starting to do this, he's starting to do that. Now he walking around here like this is my house, and how can I help you in your recovery? So if that doesn't show me that somebody coming through the door that doesn't want to talk or look at anybody, and the more they kept coming and the more we kept pouring our love and our knowledge into them, they woke up and they stayed. And then it's like, I want to be a part of you too. So now they're walking around here shining, and I give them praises. I said, I am so proud of you. Look at you, and it's just sometimes people want to hear the good, not always the bad. The bad.
Mhm.
They want to hear the good chance, like let them know, like, you got this. I got you. Be somebody's cheerleader because it matters today. So that's how I know. But from somebody that don't even want to look at you to somebody walking around here doing their thing, it's a good feeling.
I love that you said like the lights went on. And like I love that you said that. I mean, I don't know that you can really ever measure that like clinically or scientifically or whatever, but I think most of us know exactly what you mean when And that was always part of my recovery story, was when I walked into the rooms of AA for the first time, I saw people with light in their eyes. Scared the heck out of me, but I also knew I wanted what they had. That I wanted, oh, how do they have that light? What is that? Where did they get that? Victor.
I would say, how do you measure progress?
Yeah.
Um, if you ever met like a judge or a police officer, they have like excellent memory. They can remember the smallest little details. And so you really have to pay attention. And so you measure progress in some ways by documentation. You can pull out a piece of paper from 7 months ago and say, hey, this is where we started. Let's look at where you're at. But you really have to pay attention and just remember the details and bring this up to someone. There's someone going for their RCP right now, and you started this 4 months ago. You still haven't had your interview. Like, I'm going to remember that, right? Or I'm going to remember just the smallest little details in their life and bring that up because it's important to me, right? So someone's having a conversation, back to active listening, and you just tune them out. But actually, like, so just paying attention and bringing that up is how I measure progress, because something they may have said is really trivial is actually a milestone for them. And so being able to acknowledge that and bring that up, they didn't think I was listening. They didn't think that I cared. And maybe it's not even on their goal sheet or something that they were talking about, but I can see it and sort of decipher that, how important it was to them.
Yeah, that's a great point. Uh, Thank you for that. Maybe a trivial detail, maybe a milestone to them. That's what the note I wrote. Thank you, Victor. Anybody else? How do you measure progress when working with a recovery? How does a coach do that? Is it Michael? You're in the top left corner, so you got picked out.
I was just gonna
Moved
say
over there.
what Victor was saying is true, right? With active listening, right?
Yeah.
If you're listening to individuals, but you're asking them questions, right, to get that out of them, to see the progress, right? You wouldn't know if you didn't have the conversation with individuals, right, and have those questions and remember the conversations you had in the past to see if. But one cool thing that I looked up, for some reason, something told me look up the word gress, and it means it's a Latin word. It means to step, right? But the cool thing is, it's what's there too in the bottom of it is aggressive, and it's in that word too is gress, is to step, and it had me thinking. That had me thinking we can't be aggressive with individuals too, right? And try to rush things because we want it. We see it in people, right? When we see something, we be like, well, this person got it, right? And then they don't see it in themselves, right? And they don't see progress in themselves either. I think as a coach, putting that cheerleader hat on, right? To say, hey, no, wait, you are doing great, right? You might not see it, but from what I see in my stance, and I'm looking at you, you are progressing. You're doing great, right? And I think it's up to us to mention stuff like that, right? Just to to acknowledge that to people, right? Because then people, you never know. It might do something to somebody that it might progress them a lot faster than they were doing, right? It takes a little bit, but then you push them a little bit. And it's not to drag anybody, it's just to give people like a boost, right? Just a boost.
Well, that's the art of coaching, right? Is
Mhm.
when knowing when to do that and when not to. Um, Ed, how do you measure progress in people in recoveries?
Great question. Um, I don't think there's one set of standards to measure by. I really kind of like what Shireen said when she said the light switch is turned on.
Hmm.
You know, I'm listening to everyone and I'm thinking to myself, for me personally, progress progress always reveals some type of a change. A movement creates the change. So for me, I measure progress because I see in the other individual or even in myself, but it's probably easier to see in someone else, a change in their behavior. It's a change in the way they think. Even a change physically, they look differently because they begin to, what they say and how they speak, there's a change there. There's a change emotionally.
Mm.
There's that change and all of those changes, I think, are based on the fact that they make an acceptance in where they are and where they are hopefully wanting to go to in that movement. So for me, progress is how do you recognize the changes that are happening in the other individual? And for all of us, since we're different people, it happens in different ways and at different times. But I don't know. Those are my thoughts. I always look for change in the other individual for progress.
Okay. Anybody else, when you're working with a recovery, what does progress look like and how do you measure it? Priscilla.
For me, I don't think I can measure anything, but I think one of the things might be,
Mhm.
what is recovery satisfaction?
Mhm.
How are you doing what the walking alongside someone? Now I thought of another one because I forget which gentleman was that they say he said he supervises a lot of coaches. Is he still on here?
Victor, I think he might have checked out.
Oh, but the on the when I thought he was going to share, but I was thinking about and not that it's any of my job to measure anyone's things, but I the past 2 years since I've been uh, not working full time. I shouldn't say just. I need a new word for just. My
Mhm.
current role is facilitating trainings uh, quite a lot the last 2 years. But my new term is how would I measure uh, a recovery coach's progress? And
Hmm.
one of the things that I learned, and I'm not to measure anything, is how does a person um, keep the alphabet in check? Do you know the alphabet in check? Anybody with that one?
The alpha bin check,
No, alphabet. Keep the
alphabet,
alphabet in check. So the
like,
alphabet, I call it the alphabet is the ego. So
mhm.
keeping the alphabet in check, that we stay in
Uh,
our lane, are your recovery coach. And somebody said the word alphabet this last year, and I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna borrow that one. So I think that that when I just saw social media, you said it, Phil, and I'm like, ooh, I shouldn't have saw that this morning, but I saw somebody post the video about what the rules of what sobriety is to them, and you can do this and you can do this, and I'm like, you know what? Stay in your lane, Priscilla. People have a right to have a mindset, but should we use our coaching role to encourage people to sway one way or another in their own recovery? Not to say abstinence, not to say keep using, not to say harm reduction management, but sometimes people look up to recovery coaches as role models and will take what you say to heart, that if it's okay with you, then it should be okay with everyone. So I'm just going, I don't want to be the spokesman for spokesperson recovery. So I'm not thinking about posting these social media posts as you're the spokesperson. And I go, more harm could come to good. So I can just say for Priscilla, keep my alphabet in check.
yeah. Excuse me. Stefan, you were going to chime in, I think.
Bless you.
Thank you. I know Stefan was going to chime in, but he's having mouse problems. Well, he's having all kinds of mouse problems. He's turning off his camera. He can't hit the microphone. I mean,
Exactly. You're right on top of it. My phone is dying. I'm trying to plug it in, but anyway. So yeah, so I was just thinking about measuring progress in a recovery or someone we're coaching. I believe we start with them, right? We can ask them the question, you know,
mhm,
and we do. How are you doing, right?
mhm.
Like It's a very simple question. How you doing? How you doing? How are you feeling about your recovery journey? Right. And they're going to say what they say. Right. And I do think, and it was Shireen who said, you know, what a powerful, anchoring experience when the light goes on for someone. Right. Speaks to us, speaks about them, and speaks to recovery on a broader perspective. And who's to say when the light comes on, if the light comes on, right? Or sometimes, right? We know this, right? The light goes off and people return to active use, right? Some dimension, some aspect of their recovery, has suffered, right? And the light goes off, right? And what would we say about that person's progress? I was talking to a former, well, he was actually he'd been a little bit of everything. He's been my mentor, my boss, my sponsor. He's been a little bit of everything. But I was talking to him last Friday, and he mentioned about this guy that we knew that 26 years in the program returned to active use. So what does that say about his progress? That all that stuff before doesn't count anymore, right? So I think, like someone said, you gauge it on the individual, right? I mean, a return to active use or some other behavioral issue doesn't take away or negate the progress or how we might reflect upon them. I mean, it does because we tend to judge people. But I think you ask them, right? You just, how you doing?
Yeah. Who hasn't talked about progress yet? That Paul, love to hear from you.
Oh, I didn't raise my virtual hand. I raised my hand.
I saw.
So I'm I'm not gonna say her name wrong, her name right, but when she was talking about a client, so we had this client that when he first started coming to the program, participant, we had this person when he first started coming to the program to to a meeting. He used to sit in the meeting by the door, and he would sit in the meeting all of 2 minutes, and he would leave.
Hmm.
And I just said, I was telling everybody, just let him go, relax, it's gonna be all right. And he did this for a period of time, let's just say a week, but it was longer. Then he started sitting in the meeting for 20 minutes until one day, about 6, 7 months later, he sat in the whole meeting. And for me, looking at him, that was progress. And then a year later, he came in and he said, I could play the guitar. He played the guitar and sung a song. So it, man, I see a lot of progress in him. I see a lot of progress in him. And people, I heard people speak about the light bulb, and I see it a lot. Us being a recovery center, connecting people to treatment, seeing people coming in one way and deciding to change their life because of something that happened in here. So they see the light bulb and they start to say, I want to do something different with my life. I see progress in that ways in people as well. So
Mhm.
thank
Yeah, thank you.
that's all I wanted to say.
No, that's good. Thank you, Paul. Just waiting to see if anybody else wants to jump in. I know Ed does, so Ed always likes to jump in.
You started off this whole conversation with is progress good or bad?
Right.
And I'm sorry to say this, and maybe it's just me, but I am even more confused now whether it's good or bad.
Uh-huh.
Look, what I got years ago was as a recovery coach, we help people and show them the blueprints on how they can build their life of recovery. We allow them to create this choosing the structure, the design. We just were with them, helping them, suggesting, and they're doing it. And I love what Priscilla said. Is it my place to assess their progress? It's their progress.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of hesitant here to step out of it and just continue to help them progress as they choose to progress. And I
Exactly.
guess whether they progress, that's a good thing. Whether they regress, I'll help and show them more ways that they can look at. But the worst thing is, do they just sit there and not move? Because then that's a problem for me in my observation of that other individual. So, Phil, I'm no closer to the answering your question.
So why is that a problem if
Positive.
they just why is that a problem if they just sit there? Because Paul just talked about a guy who just came in and sat for 2 minutes and took off. Why is it a problem if they just sit there and
It
don't
isn't.
do
That was progress
anything?
for him.
I know, but you just said it bothers you if the person you're working with just sits there and doesn't do anything.
Damn, you caught me. Let me think about that. I'll get back to you, Phil.
I got you. Okay. I was just asking the question.
I love
Um,
I love the question. It's a good question.
because I think so for some ways, I think you hit the nail on the head. What I think about is progress is determined by the recovery. And whether they want to progress is also determined by the recovery. It's not anything that we can force on them or give them. I also think for me, progress, and I think this translates to recoveries and people, is the word improvement. You know, we talk about getting better, but do I want to improve? Like, I like, I picked up golf again after like I played here and there, but I invested in some nice clubs about a couple months ago. Um, I had one good round. I'm not playing all that well, but part of golf and the fun of golf is starting at kind of this level and trying to improve on a lot of different areas, right? And I like that challenge. I like the challenge of improving a skill, whether it's golf, drawing, fishing, leadership, you name it. I like improvement. So I think one of my key questions for recovery is how would you define improvement? And we have a great tool like the recovery wellness plan, right? You write a SMART goal, and if they come in a week later and they've made steps on the goal, isn't that progress for them? Because they took the steps they wanted to do that. They've got there. And so we would, I think someone talked earlier about celebrating that progress too, right? So um, as thinking, Ed, that you were like, oh, I think you're spot on, that it's not anything. And I think a lot of times recovery coaches get in the trap of like, my person isn't progressing, so I'm a failure, or I'm not doing it well. And I don't think that's true, not necessarily. I mean, you can only know your intentions, but if somebody is not moving the way we think down this recovery pathway, is that a reflection on us, or is that just something that happens sometimes? So, any thoughts or comments on what I just shared? James, I see you sitting there at the Golden Gate Bridge, and you've been listening and attentively. I'd love to hear from you. Any thoughts at all about this conversation on progress?
No, I love it, and thank you, Mike, for sending me the link. And Phil, you're a legend in my eyes, so it's good to be on Zoom with you all. And no, spot on. Does progress equal change? And as you spoke about SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound,
Mhm.
right? Really setting up goals where they can see, and then meeting the client where they're at, right? Stages of change. Are they in pre-contemplation, contemplation, right? A person, me being in recovery myself personally for 33 years,
Mhm.
being able to realize that I can't project what I think what recovery should look like for my recovery. I
Right.
meet them where they're at, open-ended questions, and continue to show up, stay the same, and not project what I think should be happening in their journey. Um, so it's so powerful, right? They have all the power, right? And when they realize, like, look, we're here to support you, whatever that looks like, right? Non-judgmental, non-biased, just meet you where you're at. And sometimes they don't realize how far they've come. Um,
Hmm.
when they talk to loved ones and they say, wow, you're sounding different, you're looking different, right? Their surroundings, people that knew them before sometimes recognize the progress that they don't even see. And then celebrating, right? Getting out the balloons, getting out the favors, every, because it may be minuscule to you, right? I never forget in the book when someone goes from 10 bags to 5 bags, right? You celebrate that, right?
Yeah.
And that was momentum, right? Like the train, I think I can, going down the track to help them to build that steam up. So it's peer work is beautiful. And I'm a clinician, so I got to take my clinical hat off, put my peer hat on, right? And realize it's about meeting them where they're at, asking those questions, and just being consistent and showing up in their life. And so does progress equal change? Does change equal progress? Right? It's a question that can be looked at from many different angles, but it's their journey, not ours. Right? So just meeting them where they're at, continue to show empathy, compassion, realizing what stage they're in. Right? I'm not going to be helping them in stage of maintenance where they're still in pre-contemplation, because then I'm doing harm. Right? I got to meet them where they're at consistently and celebrating every accomplishment, everything they do, even showing up. It's big for people just to show up, right?
Yeah.
Just showing up is huge. Oh, I'm glad you made it. And then they begin to talk about the struggles because, they got how to get there. They had to do this, they had to do that, whether it's Zoom or in person. So, no, very timely topic, Phil. And
Hmm.
I have golf clubs I bought 2 years ago. I still haven't used them. So, sitting in my basement, brand
Yeah.
new. And and then tapping. And if I can go back a little bit, talking about those 4 areas, I think, every year comes January, I make New Year's resolution, right? I don't know about you, but I make and by the end of the year, end of the month, I broke the resolution.
Mm.
Right? So my thing is, whatever I do, it has to be a lifestyle, right? I don't even use the word diet. It has to be a lifestyle. If you look at things as a lifestyle, it's not something I'm going to do for 6 months and then lose weight and then boom, I'm done. So when you're talking about emotional, when you're talking about, I'm a pastor. I pastor a church in New Jersey, right? When you're talking about spiritual, when you're talking about all these different things you spoke about, incorporating them in a lifestyle. For instance, every morning I'm up at 3 making my Bustelo coffee. I don't know if you know what Bustelo is. It's
We do.
espresso coffee with my old sock with the leche and the suca, right? I'm part Puerto Rican. And
Yeah.
I'm on my back porch and I got 3 rabbits in my backyard. I don't know how they got there. They're not mine, but they're there every morning, right? And I'm working on me, right? You can't pour from an empty cup. And as coach to coaches, right? Coaching coaches, who does the go to, I always say.
Right.
In many of our spaces, we're the go to.
Right.
And I call it, a lot of times we're going through the motion with no devotion. We're
Hmm.
so used to saying the cliches and moving a certain way. There's no power, there's no passion, and there's no purpose anymore because we're so used to it, right? So being able to make sure we are full, that we're filling our cup up, right? And having that support system for us so that we show up at our best, at our peak performance to help those that we're honored. This is an honor to serve, right? It's not a job, it's an honor, right? And so being able to make sure we're the best version of ourselves, and that's a continued progress, but then showing up and really meeting them where they're at. So I just was going to listen the first time, but Phil, you put me on the spot. So,
Of course I did.
and I love that shirt, Phil. I need to get one like that. I like that shirt.
Yeah.
I'm a color. Yeah. I like the colors, man. But
Thanks,
happy
Jay.
retirement. Good to be on here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, every coach needs a coach. I'm still getting coached and I'm still coaching others, so that's always important to me. Um, yeah, so progress. Any other thoughts about measuring or talking about uh, progress with a recovery? Michael, did you get to talk about this at all? You did progress with the recovery. All right. Everybody else. Hey, how about is anybody in Wyndham, the Recovery Community Center there? Any thoughts on about this conversation with progress? I know I'm putting all you guys on the spot. I can see you down there in the Wyndham Recovery Community Center. All
Yeah,
right, well, let's go. Let's hear it.
yeah, there's a saying in Alcoholics Anonymous, you can't stay sober on yesterday's sobriety, and that came up in my mind with the last bit of conversation.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have to work for today and with your morning ritual and everything, yeah.
Yeah, right. Gotcha. Thank you. Progress.
Hi, I'm Bruce. Uh, how do you know when you've made progress to any of these, the four quadrants? You know, uh, how does it connect, interconnection? Am I better today than how I was yesterday? Have I learned something today? Have I grown stronger physically? Have I become more aware? And have I connected with my higher power? And I can ask myself this, and I could ask others this as well to gauge the measure of progress. And it's so awesome because I wrote down what of the measurement of progress, and 2 minutes later, the topic came into the room, and I was baffled by it. So I thought it was simply amazing. Yeah, you guys read my mind and where the topic was going, and the progress of the topic is very enlightening as well, as far as the awareness of the documentation, the details, the memories, paying attention, caring, active listening, and as it is not up to us to measure others' progress, it is determined by the recovery's improvement. And how can I help?
Mm,
I help you. Not when, now. How can I help you now?
hmm.
Not future, not 1 hour, not tomorrow. How can I help you now? And just recognizing the stages of change. That was very interesting as well. Thank you very much, guys.
Did you
Appreciate
write all that down?
it. Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
That is absolutely amazing. And you know what? I really love the fact that you wrote those questions down for yourself about the four quadrants, and you said that now I have these questions I could ask other people. That's the essence of recovery coaching, right? So well done. I applaud that. That's pretty cool. Made my day.
Yay, Bruce.
There are people texting me saying those people in Willimantic, they're not listening all the time. And I said, they're not listening at all. I said, bullshit, they're listening. I bet they are.
We're always listening, Bill.
I know. Nobody was texting me. I'm just messing with
I
you. Well done. That is cool. So I think too about, you know, I I don't know if I'm as I get older, I becoming more maybe not cynical, I would become skeptical, right? A lot of things that I've thought about who I am, who we are, how we fit is I'm just questioning them, and maybe that's just a natural thing of aging and getting as you approach the end, your physical end. Um, but when I think of progress now, like for physically, I don't know if I can get stronger, but one of the things that was brought to mind is I try to do 30 minutes on the yoga mat each day to stretch out, just to stretch my back and my aching joints, and it keeps me looser, more flexible, allows me to hit the golf ball maybe a little bit better. I can hit that drive all of 180 now, 200 yards. And I tell my buddies I'm playing old man golf where I just like knock it down the middle, knock it near the green and knock it, do my thing around the green. But I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Progress for me, to summarize the last 10 years of my existence, I would measure it for myself is the quality of my life. Am I enjoying each moment? And I've said this many times, but I think it's worth repeating that for me, the sole purpose of my existence, the meaning of my existence is to find joy in life, is to enjoy life. And with that, I think there are two caveats, two responsibilities that I have to do my best to make life enjoyable for others. And that's what we do as coaches, right? That if somebody is absolutely miserable in their addiction or their early recovery, we can help them discover more joy, more peace, more serenity by what we do as coaches, by the questions we ask, I love that James was talking about being consistent in their lives, because I heard that yesterday too. And then I also think this gets into a bigger thing about that whole thing I was talking about, the planet and multiple civilizations and all that horse shit I was throwing out there. But it was like, I think we have an obligation to take care of our planet because this is our spaceship, this is our home, so that more generations can enjoy life, can find joy. And I think one of the things that coaches are really excellent at and that we need more of, and this is why I also find that I didn't find a lot of joy on social media. As a matter of fact, I found it robbing my joy. And so, horseshit, right, Stefan? So anyway, joy is the essence of progress. And I think I mean, I had dinner with two of my daughters and my wife yesterday, and um, my one of my daughters is going through a phase where she had some trauma and she's angry, she's just angry. And I said, "Are you finding any joy?" And she goes, "Well, if I wasn't finding joy, what would you do about it?" I said, "Whoa." And she's like, "You're the father. What would you do about it?" I said, "I don't know if there's a lot I can do about it except ask you a few questions." And now that you're 29 years old, I would hope that you would come to me if you felt you needed to. Well, would you tell me or would you tell anybody? Who goes, well, that's a fair point. If you weren't joyful, that's a fair point. I probably wouldn't either. So we kind of left it at that. So I've been struggling with what do I do with this kind of anger thrown my way. Leslie, good to hear from you. So we're at 11:29. So I'd love to hear a few words from you. Good to see you. If she can crash and don't
Good,
crash while you're driving.
good to be seen. I'm grateful that you called on me. I had a conflict with in-person therapy, so I'm late, but just really good to be here. You spoke the words that I've been speaking. I just find it amazing when they're spoken by others. I talk about the planet Earth. I talk about our spaceship. I talk about how we're more similar than we are different, and learning to get along. But as far as it pertains to recovery coaching, I talk about how we're such examples of joy. And when I tell my recovery that we're so much more similar than you realize, I can tell them that till I'm blue in the face, but I need to show them, and I do. I need to show them that we're peers. I'm not above you. And look at me now. Like I was right where you're at. And look at me now. And that it's possible. See, that's the other thing that I need to convey, that recovery is possible. Because it's always an addict and you're never going to make it, right? That's the general population's opinion, unfortunately. And I want to convey absolutely possible. Look at me. Look at where I was. I almost died from this thing. And here I am. So that's it. Thanks for letting me talk about that. And the progress, You see it in their eyes. It's
Yeah.
not it's not hard to see. It's the windows to the soul. That's what you see. Thanks.
Thank you. And I think that's a great way to like wrap this up is that sometimes when we're in personal, our own lives are an indicator of progress that's desirable for other people. So, using ourselves as examples, that's a great way to wrap it up. So thank you. I learned quite a lot today, as usual. Um, and that's our little session here on progress. Thank you, Michael, for facilitating. As always, an awesome job. Appreciate you very much.
Appreciate you.
All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care,
Thank
everybody.
everybody.